All right, we are back, and I do apologize. I was so deep into the reason that I didn't do any Q&A. So we're gonna wait here to see for people to jump back in, and if anyone's interested in doing a question or providing a question.
Mhm. Man, it was dope, man. Definitely dope. I know we're gonna hold off some info, for the conference, man. I'll just definitely give people the discount for the book and all that for the conference. But if they are jumping on, they could hop over. I kept it for a light time, so they could do that as well.
Straight. Um, let's give a little time for people to jump back in.
Mhm.
Well, while we're waiting for people to jump in, anyone who's in, if you have any questions for myself or Brother Lawrence, please put it in the chat.
Mhm. One of the dope things I love about your platform, man, is like I'll even learn a lot through the comments, man. People spend a lot of time, and they'll take their time responding.
He said the comment
So
section wild. Yeah,
yeah, the comment
yeah,
section wild. So you're
wow.
gonna get a good question from
All right.
from your people.
Um, yeah, anyone here driving trucks down the interstate listening? All right, all right. So
Awesome.
I respect that same way. Be safe. Do you have any questions or any topics you want us to touch on? Well, while we're waiting for hold on, how do we deal with mothers that keep sons away?
Mm,
That's
mm,
that's a heavy one.
mm.
I'll let you start on that. I gotta ideate on that one for a little bit.
Here first, I'm sorry. That's you know um, what you're
Crushing,
dealing with.
crushing
That's
experience.
crushing. And healthy amount of anger. So I want to be realistic, particularly when people are sharing these things, right? Is because there's such thing as righteous anger. You should be angry, right? If you love your son, you would want to make sure that there's nothing that gets in the way of that. With that said, so I want to at least be able to think that the emotion that you're having, right, about the situation, I don't want you to demonize the anger. However, righteous anger. However, you want to make sure that you're channeling that in the best way because think about it. What is my ultimate goal? If my ultimate goal is to see my child versus my wife seeing the error in all of her ways, they're two separate goals. And so, if you believe that, hey, if that's the ultimate thing, what is necessary? What would make it necessary? So, is there, hey, do we have to do so? As I'm cogent and sober minded, as I get down from my frustration for not seeing my child, is there a legal route that may make it easier for you to be able to see your child? One. Two, if you're like, I don't have the time to kind of spend on lawyers and doing like that, being able to reach out, whether it's like, hey, I'm not in a place that I can communicate this directly with my mouth yet, writing out your thoughts, but writing it from a humble place because your goal is not to win the argument. Your goal is saying, hey, I can understand that things did not work out between us. And, I know that there's a lot there. With that said, I do believe that we both are committed, putting you guys on the same page. We both want our child to have the best development and best, development possible. And I would really want to see our child. Is there a way that can make that possible? I know that's hard, especially because you're like, man, I'm mad. I'm assuming from here that the mother has custody. I'm assuming that. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But you have to now be wedded in your mind to the outcome, not so much the means. And so if this requires me, it's kind of like, yo, there's a scripture that talks about like, man, like, you know, in like kind of like if and when in Rome, do as the Romans do, or kind of like it. Yeah. So yeah, he said, yeah. In essence, like I'm gonna become anything to win everyone, right? Paul talked about I'll become whatever I need to become to win over the hearts of people. Similarly, who do I need to become to make sure that I put myself in the best position to spend time with my child? And that may require me humbling myself in a way that, quite frankly, I don't think is necessary. But if you care more about your child than you care about your anger or care about what your wife is doing, you'll do what you need to do. And so I said, number one, see if you could seek a legal route so they can make it easier to do that. If that's not, because I know I'm pretty sure there's a lot of context to that, write it out to yourself and have somebody read it over. And in it, you're trying to put an olive branch and say, I know we have our issues, you know, but at the end of the day, we made a child and I care about you and I care about the child. So what do I need to do to make sure that we can do that? And then lastly, I would say at some point, if there's somebody that may be able to mediate, I'm pretty sure you probably already did that already, but I've seen, for example, growing up in kind of Nigerian culture, I saw some issues when I saw friends of parents have issues, aunts, uncles. They used to bring everybody to one house. The men and women would be there and they would literally have a village meeting about their marriage. Now, again, you're not married, but if there are somebody individually that you both trust who's somewhat been neutral on this, that she would be willing to hear from and you'd be willing to hear from and say, hey, I want to talk about this. Could you get us on the phone? Or, hey, could we meet up? And you're not trying to win the argument, but say, I'm just committed to making sure that I can spend time with my child. I think those are three ways, but I'd offer it to you, Linton, to offer some perspective. But that would be my starting point.
No, I'll leave that one alone, Fire.
Yeah,
I'll leave that one alone. I do send sympathy
compassion,
for your
brother.
compassion, bro.
Compassion,
It's a
brother.
rough situation, you know, and
I'm sorry.
it's a rough situation. So
Those man, and I see it, and that's why I'm like, I have compassion. I don't even lead with criticism. I'm like, who wouldn't be angry?
facts.
Instinctually, you should be angry if you love them. But now, once you, always give this perspective, particularly for people of faith, for those from God gave us space to be angry. If you look at most of the Psalms, there are times where David, Habakkuk, he's angry, he's complaining, but he gives them time to process. It's in the Bible, which means God was like, it's cool. Like he let them. I'm not saying that being it's in the Bible, everything that's in the Bible is cool. What I'm saying is that God, in their interaction, made space for that person to be upset with him. And so what that means is that God understands as human, even God got angry. So give yourself some space to be angry. And then once you've processed that and got that out, you can get to a sober space to at least maybe implement some of the steps that I offer. But I know there's no perfect silver bullet. So I just want to offer you encouragement.
No, I appreciate that. I apologize. I can't touch on that one, but I know my lane.
It's okay.
There is another question I'm gonna touch on here, but I am encouraging anyone who is on. We're dealing with healthy habits for men, right? Same brother here. How do we as men? I'll put it
Welcome,
up here. How do we as men build a healthy relationship with education and our food? The first thing is starting and consistency. What I've learned is that many of us are experts in a lot of things. Unfortunately, sometimes we're not experts in things that are beneficial to you. But if you really replicate that same behavior, it's just consistency. You don't realize it because it's just the norm, right? Like things you would look at. You mentioned earlier, you would look at recipes online. So think about it. If I look at the game, right? Let's break it down. Let's say a regular game. I watched the pregame, I watched the game, and I watched the postgame. That's probably about 4 hours, plus with reels and shorts in between. So say I do 6 hours in one day. I can take some of that time and divert it to somewhere else in areas I want to improve on. I'm not sure what type of education you want, but you can divert some of that time. It goes back to the time management we spoke about, and put that time in the things you want to build on. And that consistency, I'm telling you, is compound interest. That consistency of doing that thing you develop, but it's being proactive and actually putting time towards those things. So his food is being proactive in regards to saying, you know what, man, I'm just gonna make something, bro. I'm gonna make it regardless of how it comes out. First time may be a little tricky. I'm going to make it again. You'll understand your food profile. You understand your flavors. And the more you do it, it's just like, because early on in my cooking journey, I probably wouldn't share the food with anybody because it sucked. It is what it is. I was just starting and it wasn't where it's at. But I've been cooking for years now, so it's on the heights, but constantly cooking, learning, messing up, like anything else. It's the same formula, but sometimes I don't think we understand the universal approach to things in life. We think it's like this
Mm,
different formula for something else, but everything is just that discipline, that commitment, and that consistency. In
mm.
regards to education, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but there are many routes you could go with that. You have the reading, you have the podcast, and also you have thinking yourself and writing. I think writing is a great aspect of education because sometimes we're in denial about how much information that we have and how brilliant that we are. We're always looking for information from the outside. But if you kind of chill with yourself for a little bit and write down your thoughts, you realize you have some dope thoughts and you can build on that and take information from other people and apply it to yourself and grow that way.
Mm. Key on that, man. There's not much more I'll add to that. The two things I would share is that I think we as a people, I'm subject to this. We're all subject to this. Sometimes we're informed far beyond our ability to implement. We're informed far beyond our ability to implement. So there's such a inundation of information. We have access to information at levels that we never have before. And so sometimes part of the barrier to us implementing a lot of these things, so you talk about education and food, is that there's so much information out there, you get paralyzed and you don't start. And so one, I would say have a bias towards action, right? Number two, be willing to start in one place. And so if you're saying, okay, with education, I'm going to learn this one thing and I'm going to do this right in a reasonable habit. There's a great book called Atomic Habits, and a lot of times by James Clear, and he talks about the importance of like creating conditions for you to be successful. So, for example, you're like education. I want to have a healthy relationship. What you're saying is that I have a relationship, but it's not healthy. And so you're like, if I want to have a healthy relationship with education, perhaps you're saying I want to be more intentional. Say, you know what? I'm going to start with 5 minutes of reading a day. I'm not going to try a million. I'm just going to at least do the thing that's going to get the education in. So let me choose the topic, and I'm going to read 5 minutes a day. If I could do that, start with something that you know you could do, you'll do, then you'll up it. Now you've at least are making the conditions easier. With food, same thing, right? One thing I'll an angle is that for many people, they have a relationship with food because they have to eat to be alive, but they have an unhealthy relationship. And so one thing I encourage you is be mindful of when you eat and why you eat. For what many people don't even realize is that a lot of their eating is also a coping mechanism, even if they're in shape. So when they're stressed out, there's the pleasure seeking. And I'm putting myself in this, man. I'm 80-20. I believe in cheat days, 80% Monday through Friday, eat clean. Friday at 5 to Sunday at 11:59, eat whatever I want. I've been doing that since I've been 18 years old, and it works for me. And I think it's an 80%. It's a balance. However, times when I'm really stressed out, I started to notice when I was really stressed out, how ham I went at 5:01. It was man. I get 4 Big Macs, 4 Big Mac meals, like McFlurry, sweet and sour sauce. I'm like, man, like I didn't just go to the Senegalese place, get my DB lamb and call it a day. Like I went and got this joint. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Or I didn't get my pickles. And so I say that to say, if you could even start with starting to at least take inventory of why I eat. Sometimes you'll realize, I'm stressed out right now. I'm going to go to food. You know what? Now I want to make a better choice. Or at least if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make a healthy choice because you now realize I am doing that to feel better. It's a drug. The sugar's a drug. The things are a drug. So I'm doing that to feel better. And so this is why I would say, to add to my brother's point in terms of the tactics, start to even do the psychology of like, why am I eating right now? And what could it show say about me? I'll even take it another step further. When I'm stressed, I pleasure seek with food. I may pleasure seek in other things. And so pleasure seeking may be like, you may be escapist. You now procrastinate more. That's also coping. Right. I'm coping because I'm stressed. So now I may sit on YouTube and I may watch another clip of a highlight longer versus getting back to work. Procrastination often is a coping mechanism. And so again, think about why, and I think that'll help you a lot.
In fact, so I want to add 2 more things, strategy I have to implement with myself. One is that I found I was mistaking hunger for thirst. I'm not sure if you guys experienced that because I thought I was hungry, but I wasn't hungry. I was really just thirsty. And when you just drink something, you kind of save yourself a lot of calories like that, right?
Hmm.
Another thing too, man, you have to be proactive with this food fire, like because man, I'm telling you, like you have to be proactive with this food. And two things that help me is like one, when I do get my sugar, I try my best to get it off on the one off. So like if I keep it in the house, I'm gonna eat it. It is what it is, right? You have to be
Hmm.
truthful with it. If it's in the house, I am going to eat it. There's not gonna be any portion control. I'm gonna eat everything that's there. So therefore I have to get my stuff one off outside of the house. But another thing too, that food preparation helps so much because
Mm.
when you're hungry, like if you're busy and hungry, the guard is down. Things aren't processing, and you're going to try to eat what's there. And usually, what's outside the house is not the healthiest thing. Even if it's a healthy option, it's not the healthiest thing due to because you don't know the quality of the food in the restaurant. It may be a plant based, it may be vegan, it may be all these things, but the quality of the food itself is trash. You don't know what oils they're
Hmm.
using. There's so many different factors, but be careful of mistaking hunger for thirst. And also, if you do have food prepared, I guarantee you because I don't really think you're gonna prepare food and still eat out. I'm not sure. Maybe that's the case too, but for me,
Yeah.
it's just like if I have food prepared, I'm pretty good. Like I have my smoothies here, I have my lunch, and I'm kind of locked in that way. And also, you save a lot of money.
Yeah, man, I think, man, I have to offer this, man. I think this is a really, really good thing for us to talk about because I think this impacts so many people. He talked, Linton talked about this, man. Jay talked. You have to think about, I call it butter knife theory and the environment. Butter knife theory is just like there's only but so much damage I can do with a butter knife, right? Similarly, is that's like when I'm actually doing the grocery shopping, I actually am thinking there's certain things that on the weekend if it's not the weekend I won't have it in the house.
Yeah,
We won't buy it because if it's there I can have it. So the worst I could do is go off on these healthier items.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if I'm gonna have the Doritos in the house, you have to be honest about what you can handle. And so literally my wife and I, we will not have certain things in the house and then Friday we'll go out, we'll do another grocery run even Saturday morning just to get the snacks. Because now we can go in on these snacks because if we have it during the thing, it's really gonna hurt us. And then I like to get really practical because a lot of times to your point, sometimes people get all this knowledge, but it's like, how do I implement this? Right. I'm strongly recommend 80-20, right? Give yourself start there, give yourself 5 days of just healthier eating. So at least choose one thing that if it's fried food for you, that's your Achilles heel. I'm not going to do fried food Monday through Friday. And then actually plan to have it, actually schedule it and use it as a reward. And so part of the thing like, bros, we need to feel like we've earned something, right? You know what I mean? Like we've done something. It's a dopamine rush to feel like, oh, I've earned this reward. So say, you know what? I'm gonna get to Friday at 5, and then Friday at 5, I have a date with that fried chicken, right? You know what I'm saying, or whatever you want to eat. Start there and start to wean off. Number two, if you're gonna have carbs or some heavy sugar, have it earlier in the day. If you have it earlier in the day, again, if you have it later, number one, your metabolism naturally through circadian rhythm slows down in the evening. Number two, if this is not converted, the glycogen, like if it's not converted in energy and use, it's going to turn to fat. And so typically, if I'm going, I'm not a cheat code. If I'm going to do some heavy, like go in fries or my ice cream, I try to have it earlier in the day. Number three, get to know apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is literally an insulin spike suppressant. So when I have sugar, my wife and I do that. I literally have a bottle that we'll take out. And if I go to have ice cream, if you have it before or even after, go look it up, you Google it. It blunts your insulin response. And so now your insulin doesn't go as high. You're not going to have the crash, and you're not going to have some of the negative, as much of the negative effects as possible. So I want to give some game. If you could start somewhere, that could be some framework that you could start with.
and facts, man. And we have to be realistic about things. I think we lie to ourselves because I'm a highly disciplined person, but I'm very realistic with myself, and I'm very proactive in avoiding certain situations and put myself in certain situations. Because if I put myself in certain situations, there's a high probability it's not going to work out for me. It is what it is, and I
Yeah.
think too many times we lie to ourselves and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have this type of ice cream in the house. I'm going to have these cookies. I'm going to have this thing. And it's just going to sit there and I'm going to pick away at it once at a time. And that's just not the case. It's just not realistic. You have to be very
Exactly.
strategic and you have to be truthful with yourself. And you're not weak by doing this. You're being smart and saying, hey, it is what it is. This thing tastes very good. I like it very much. And I have to avoid it and I have to keep it at bay. But at the
Exactly.
same token, though, I do notice people go to the extremes where they go to the point where they don't engage in it, and it's too traumatic, and they just binge. You don't want to do that. You want to have it, but you want to have it in a manner where it's not detrimental to you.
Most definitely. The two things that some people just ask a question. So the apple cider vinegar, no, you don't need ice. I would take that either right with before the meal or after the meal, or as a oh, I think my man Jeffrey dropped. So, or as a flip, make sure you have it when you first wake up, and you could just have it you could put like a tablespoon, like a tablespoon in a large glass, and that could be your joint. That could last almost a week, and just have a sip when you wake up, or have it right before you go to bed. Apple cider vinegar is helpful in that way, just general to level out your blood sugar. So you don't need to have it on ice. I would recommend if you can get a metal straw, because apple cider vinegar, like something's going to work down the enamel of your teeth. So be careful with that. And then two, I was giving some advice generally for most people, like the largest population. But of course, you need to eat whole foods, right? So I
No
would say
facts.
you want to avoid. So for example, if you're doing your Monday through Friday, I avoid anything processed. If it's in a box, maybe for some people they may do oatmeal, so maybe that's their push around. I kind of stay away from that. But if it's in a box, it's not whole. You know what I'm saying? Then I would say that you want to probably avoid that during the week.
Yeah, this Brethren here, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but they brought up a point in regards to it is true. The cleaner you eat, the more things are me personally, and you experience it, they're gonna mess up your stomach, bro.
Yeah, man.
Like I think that's one of the key indicators that like your body's on ice, because when you eat certain things, like I go through periods where I don't eat as much as other things, specifically fried foods. Um, Now I made some fried oyster mushrooms. I did it in like avocado oil. It's not the same, but like if I was to
Mhm.
have like something else, it messes up my stomach. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it is what it is. So like it's just you're just cleaner and things won't it'll impact your body more. That's the place you should be. But yeah, you'll definitely see a change in how your body interacts with food. Me personally, I can't eat late. I don't know if I'm getting older. If I turn 40,
No, that's good.
like
That's good.
the late night thing don't work, man. It does not work for me. I don't sleep well. Stomach's messed up, and it's like it is what it is. And but I'm aware of that, so I don't eat late. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
aware of how my body reacts to that, and well, all the things we do speak about, especially like just being more attuned with yourself. You have to observe how your body reacts and stuff. You can't be in denial, and like certain reactions aren't good, and you have to figure out why that's taking place and what you have to modify, because a lot of these things can be modified by I'm not talking about like crazy like disease or anything, but a lot of things you feel as a human being could be modified with sleep, proper eating, more movement, and reducing stress. Because
Mhm.
this Bridget mentioned Yaki, you'll see it in a full interview, but we have a whole section where we speak about the source of an ailment. Is it food? Is it stress? Is it environment? Is it mental? Like when I was in a bad mental state, I had pain in my body.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? Like I
Mhm.
actually had pain. Like nothing was wrong. I don't know what it was going on in my mind, but like depending on your mental state, you can actually have physical ailments that come directly from it.
There's a great book. This is The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah,
There's an amazing book to read. It talks about like I grew up not really being into medication unless it was absolutely necessary, because when your body is reacting, it's telling you something.
facts.
And so, outside of pain management, obviously at extremes, I'm not demonizing for people who do that. For me, it's just like I want to know what's causing what's happening.
Yeah,
Because if I just deal with the pain on the end, I'm not dealing with the source. And
facts.
so I think it's extremely important that your body is one of the most, your brain, your body is one of the most advanced. It's its own like Wolverine T1000, man. It heals itself. It knows how to respond. It knows how to give you signals. It gives you smoke signals immediately. And so typically you can often know what's going on. So I want to speak to this piece. At the end of the day, 80% of it, to your point you talked about, if you got good sleep, if 80% of it's your food. So if you got good sleep, if you drank more water, because
Thank you,
water is
Lord.
most of your system, it helps to detoxify, flush your body out. That if you even just did that, sleep, water, and then on the food, if you even just marginally continue to get it better, that's 80% of it. More than 80% of often weight loss, body recomposition is on food. The last thing I'll offer, because I think this person asked this question for the gut health, this will answer the same question, right? One of the things I recommend, particularly with gut health, is that one, fermented foods. Usually, this research has shown gut health actually is tied. Poor gut health oftentimes has implications for your mental health. So
Must.
typically, when you find people have struggling with mental health, usually their gut health is off. Two, some people who struggle with often bad breath, the halitosis, that people say, oh, halitosis, that's not coming from their mouth. It's
Your
coming from
gut
their
fire.
gut. It's
Gut
coming from their
fire.
gut. And so these are symptoms of things that you can now see that I have something in my gut. So a couple of things for gut health. One practice that I implement, has been a part of me, but actually helps with your gut to actually reset is fasting. Some people are not big into fasting. Even our brother Nuri talks about 1 meal a day. I've been on that stuff. I've been on 18-6. I fast for 18 hours of 6. Part of the reason that allows your gut to recover and the gut microbiome to set the
Give it a
good
little bit.
bacteria. It allows it to reset and be proper. That's one. So apple cider. So doing that. Two, apple cider vinegar and or lemon. So apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar for many people, that's like it's an acidic piece, but often sometimes operates as this prebiotic probiotic type of dynamic. So lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, that actually helps your gut extremely well. Next, I'll say fermented foods. So kefir, if you want to do dairy, some people not on the dairy, sauerkraut, kimchi, any type of pickled type of thing that helps your gut health tremendously. And particularly for brothers, that pickled, those fermented stuff is really big for your testicle health and for your testosterone support and development as well. And so those are some things to work on your gut health that I think will help a lot. So go ahead, brother.
Now I want to say too, man, make sure you're implementing your greens and your I
Oh
say
yeah,
greens and beans, but your greens, your legumes, your fruits. Definitely get your
fibrous
fruits in.
fibrous stuff. Yep.
You can do. I think I know I went through a period where I think I was drinking too much smoothies, but it's something about chewing fruit that you need to like keep in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big dandelion person. Whether it's dandelion root, I mix in my
Oh
teas,
yeah,
or the dandelion leaf, I make in my wrap or my salad.
the lot of
Uh,
teas. Yeah.
Cherry tomatoes, your cucumbers. I use my peppers, but you definitely want to get your teas in the morning. I mix my consistent tea is I put hibiscus, burdock root, dandelion root, and sarsaparilla, and I have like this turmeric
Mm.
tincture I made with a bunch of crap, and I can't remember. But anyway, and at night I drink chamomile, lemon balm, valerian, and hibiscus.
Brother, you brother apothecary out this piece, man.
But
That is amazing.
that's the rotation at work, and like we have blood pressure in the family, but between that, eating right, and the meditation and stretching's really been able to keep things under control where I don't have a spike and everything's cool. But
Mm.
back to the discipline, man, that is my regimen. You get the people in the house to verify, like that's what I do, and it works. But regardless of what you're doing, it needs to be done consistent. That's the main thing I want to take away for those. Whatever you're doing, you have to do it consistently. And the more you do it, the more you learn, the more you grow, the more you tweak. I think someone was mentioned something earlier about education. You have to be a student in everything that you do. And being that this is a great time with access to so much information, you have to be a student to the things that you put into your body,
Mm-hmm.
and the research you put in. Find everything research at the end of the day. You get what I'm saying? Regardless of how you want to categorize it, like it's research. And I would
Mm-hmm.
back to the time management and everything. Like you have to put time into things that are beneficial to yourself. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, man, if I'm trying to get healthy, just start. Just start at a specific thing. Type in a particular thing. Hey, I want to clean out my kidneys, heart
Mm-hmm.
health, brain health, blood flow. Focus on that and try your best to implement that more than anything consistently. Too many times I see people get super excited about stuff. They do it for a week. They tell everybody, they post about it, and it's just gone. You won't see any change in that. Don't do it for anyone else. Do it for yourself because you love yourself. You're worthy of it. You want to work at the optimal level. And you just deserve to just work your body to work at the optimal level. And these are the things you have
Mm-hmm.
to implement. Everyone I know who's healthy, life is super basic, bro. One would say is boring because it's the same thing. There's not
Mm-hmm.
much deviation. Like what I eat is not a great thing. It's pretty consistent, right? We got a curry
Mm-hmm.
stew at the house, some lentils, some quinoa, I'll fry some plantains. We'll mix up some different things. You
Shout out to Plantain. Yeah. That's my joint.
Kelly Welly, for my
Hmm.
Ghanaians. And yeah, and you know, you just have your juices and you prepare, you prep, you know, you make sure you have things in the fridge. I'm not a big on buying like smoothies outside the house. It's kind of crazy because they're like 8 to 12, $15 depending where you live.
Hmm.
I'm not sponsored by Vitamix, bro, so I want to be clear.
Oh, brother, I'm Team Vitamix, man.
I'm not
Oh,
gonna
man.
pour, but the one I have, the base, I've had that since I probably had that since like 2010. No, about 2012, around there.
Yeah, that's
Same
when I
base.
got mine. That's when I got
Yeah.
mine.
I cracked the mug. I had to get a new one, but itself is like kind of indestructible. And yeah, just throw everything in there and blend up your juice to get it. In regards to hydration, you can go the fruit route depending on what you put in there to keep you hydrated. But I just think, more than anything, I know we gave you a lot of information, but the more thing is, man, just be consistent and stick with something.
Hmm.
You know, if
Hmm.
you miss it for a day, cool, don't beat yourself up, but get back on it. Like be
Hmm.
consistent with the things that you implement. The working out, the eating, and I guarantee you'll see dramatic changes in yourself. You know,
It builds you talked about this earlier, and I hope that people hear that in our grounding, man, and our reasoning was the confidence. You
facts.
feel better. You literally, one of the common things that brothers are talk about is the reality of cloudy head. A lot of
Facts.
brothers are tired. They just feel foggy in their brain, not forgetting any or they see themselves in the mirror. There's inflammation. You know what I'm saying? You see now it's kind of like the moon is becomes the moon face of like,
Yeah.
no, I looked at myself and seemed like my head got bigger over the years. I'm not even making a joke, right? You see brothers, it's kind of like, what happened?
Yeah.
It's the food. Your body's inflamed. Your body's trying to tell you, like, and what's coming in is toxifying your body. And so I think, if anything, when you see your body at its best, everything changes. And so your confidence is there. So as much as I think logically it would make sense, information doesn't change people, inspiration does. And I think you want to inspire yourself to be like, man, like, what does looking like my best look like? And on top of that, I know I'm going to feel good. And I like feeling sharp. I don't like feeling tired. I don't like feeling so tired and grumpy all the time.
And you got that swag, man, because I think I don't know if I don't remember if we broke it down, but all right, we spoke about this discipline and the confidence, and the discipline comes because you know you put in that work.
Oh, the
That's why,
receipts.
that's why all this cosmetic stuff is kind of tricky because it's like you can't lie to yourself. You know, like it's like fire. There's nothing when you put in that work consistently, and you know you have a swag. It's not arrogance. It's confidence. Like you put in your work all the days you didn't want to do it, all the days you were tired. You did it, and you saw the results. And
Hmm.
that confidence can't be taken away. And cool enough is that confidence and discipline can go to other aspects of your life. You may start off
Hmm.
by consistently, you say, well, you know what, man, I'm gonna make this meal consistently. And you got a vibe and you got confidence, and that can flow off to other aspects of your life. That's just how it
Hmm.
works. Because you prove to yourself you can do something, you can be disciplined. Because remember, whenever you're doing something for duration of time, there are gonna be so many obstacles. You have family schedule issues, this and that, but you have to make it work.
Hmm.
So you'll learn to make it work regardless, just from that aspect of your life.
Hmm. Hmm. You need a narrative, man. Confidence is contagious. You need a narrative,
I
and
like
you
that
need a reason.
confidence.
Confidence contagious. I always share, like I have a personal trainer certification, man. I was like, like I said, I was track and field, we're athlete, and like usually when I'm talking to people, I have to understand, why do you want to get in shape? And I used to ask this. I used to go through this long process before we even started anything. I was like, you need a stronger story. Because if the story of the why is not strong enough, you're not going to sustain this thing, right? It's kind of like people like, oh, I want to build this business, or I want to your why is going to sustain you in the difficulty. And so for some people, it's just like, man, you know what? Nobody in my family lived past 60. You know what? I want to live to see my kids, or you know what? And so when they pin that down,
Facts.
that's when now the why
Leads
fuels the discipline.
leads
It
to that
fuels the
commitment.
exactly. So
Uh,
if anything, you need to articulate clearly for yourself why you want to get in shape. Why is it important? And then that will fuel the discipline, which to your point allows you to have integrity with the receipts because you can't lie to yourself. There's a lot of cats who are like, oh man, I'm grinding out here. And he's like, nah, man, you wake up at 11 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? You spend most of the time on Instagram. If you really did accept your life, stop lying to yourself. You're not putting in that work. And so now I think it's similar to that. It actually is compounding another thing. It actually cumulatively, it crescendos your motivation as you continue to see yourself knocking stuff out.
No, facts. And you mentioned something about that lying to yourself. We got to touch on that, man, because I think that this goes into the whole like um getting to know yourself and the healing. I am not telling anyone to beat yourself up, right? I
Mm,
just want to be clear, but you have to be truthful with yourself in a compassionate way. And you have to be truthful with yourself in a compassionate way to identify areas you need to improve in. I think
mm,
we're in a culture right now where everyone's lying to themselves, and it's easy to lie through social media and get praise as if you're doing something when you're not really doing anything.
mm, mm,
So I
mm,
think one of the key aspects to grow in any aspect of your life is to be truthful and clearly identify the areas that you are struggling with, or to identify the areas you want to improve in, and create a system. That's another thing we should have spoke about, bro, in regards to
mm,
this operating system. Everything works off of systems,
mm,
and you have
mm,
to create a system for you that's efficient as possible, that has the checks and balances, that it can run like a well-fueled machine. But
mm,
you have to acknowledge the areas you need. It's okay, you're not a bad person. We all have areas we need to improve on. You always need to reevaluate yourself too. um I don't want to bring up the bridging again, but we had a powerful reasoning with Yaki, and we spoke about that. Like, he just made the metaphor that we're computers, and he was saying with technology has to always update itself or it'll be obsolete and it can't thrive or it can't survive in the environment. We're the
mm,
same thing as human beings. You constantly have to update yourself.
mm,
You have to
mm,
analyze yourself and say, like, I know you go through it. There may be times where there are areas in your life where you're not as efficient as you need to be and you need to tighten it up. But that's a personal conversation. Hey, say, hey, you know what, I do need to spend a little more time resting, or I do need to work out more, or like, I've been eating a little crazy lately, or I haven't been spending enough time with this. These are all things you have to have that real conversation without beating yourself up. I want to be clear, because some people go way in the deep end. I'm not asking anyone to beat themselves up, but to be truthful with yourself, have the courage and the discipline and the patience with yourself to make that decision to change and work towards that better outcome.
Man, it's I can't help but say it, man. I'm gonna say it, man, because and I know some many will appreciate this view. Is like, man, growth is like swimming in a pool that's infinitely deep. It's if you ask somebody what's being in perfect shape, there's no perfect shape because you could always be in better shape. And so I think, one of the things that you see from people who are able to be adaptive and adjust their systems in a process, that they're lifelong students. For people of faith, they call being a disciple is a student, it's a pupil of a teacher, which means that if I am that, I am literally in my identity is to be a person who learns and consistently learning, right? And so I think that the idea of committing to your life that you're always going to be learning, that's the only way you're only gonna always gonna be growing. And so I think there has to be a humility in this process. For example, like what I do in the gym now, almost 4 decades in this thing is different than what I did in the gym in 20 decades. This is something I'm not pushing myself. I'm trying to get stronger,
You got to tone it down a little bit on
but I'm
certain
making adaptations because I'm seeing brothers, man. You know how many of my brothers tore their Achilles, man, on
facts,
hoop?
facts, facts.
You know what I'm saying? Or the AC. I'm like, hey, brother, man, I'm too grown for this. I don't got nothing to prove. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
bro.
like, I don't got nothing to prove, right? So you make adaptations, but I think part of it is remaining humble to say there's no such thing as being in perfect shape. There's no such thing as being a perfect person. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship, but there's such thing as pursuing and being perfected along the way.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say too, you can relate to this as a man that plays sports, is that like, I don't know what was going on. Yeah, I don't know if it was the ego thing or what, but I was still trying to work out like I did in college. So I'm not sure if you went through that process or not.
Brother,
But I
hybrid.
was I
Yeah.
was still I was still trying to work out like I did in college. In fact, my body wasn't accepting it. And like I really had to it took me years to like modify my workouts to where it's sustainable. And I'm not gonna say I think I'm the healthiest I am in my life. Shit, I may be in the best shape I am in my life, but I really had to modify the workouts. But more than the working out in the gym, I had to change everything I was doing outside of the gym. That's been the biggest change. Like, like I did modify my workouts to like, so it's sustainable, but I really changed everything I did outside of the gym, and that was like the greatest change for me personally.
Yeah, man. And part of it is wisdom because my wife will laugh when she watches. She'll be because I said my commitment is to be a lifelong athlete. Like I'm a hybrid athlete. I'll be a lifelong athlete. However, one of the things is because you changed often it's not because thank you get to fourth decade. Sometimes that grown man strength kick in another gear. So it's not like you can't be stronger. However, the recovery and the tendency to break or your ability to recover is plummets.
Yeah.
So you need more sleep. You can't just go in there. You need more of this. You need more of that. Right. And so I think part of those things is like, yo, you may be able to do this. It's going to cost you more at this age. Right. You know what I mean? You see LeBron going to give you 30, 35, and then he off for a couple of games. Right. You know what I'm saying? Facts. You just got to think your recovery, man.
No, serious thing, man. And we give thanks for everyone tuning in. Somebody said just body weight and pull-ups. We give thanks for everyone tuning in. We wish you the best on your growth and what you're doing. Hopefully you were able to take in some information here. And do remember, we will be, or hopefully you come, I should say, Grounders with My Brothers Holistic Health Conference, October 12th in Philadelphia. Lawrence Adjah will be there in the flesh, speaking about marriage with many others. So we give thanks until next time.
Bless.